I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. And we sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Ho ho! Hello there. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 263rd episode of the Political Spotlight. I am your host, Kristopher H. Bilbrey, and I am just about tired of talking already, and we've just begun. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday. If you're watching this live with us, it's Thursday. If you're watching this on repeat, it's whatever day, time, month, and continent that you happen to be on. We welcome you all, the people that are watching live or the people that are watching upon replay. Either way, we love you very much, and thank you for being here, whether you like us or hate us, all the same. Whether or not you like or support us, we would ask at least your penance for being here. Please hit the like button on your way in or your way out. It's all the same. It would help us out tremendously. If you're on YouTube, please consider subscribing to the show. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't do anything, but it does allow you to then click the bell, which allows you to set up your notifications so you will be able to know when we are live. We are live generally 5 nights a week, Sunday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern. It also lets you know when we drop other short content or static recorded videos, so that is important. We can also be heard on Facebook, X, TikTok, Rumble. It's still coming, I promise. But check that out. We can also be heard in audio only format, and I hope that you are checking that out as well. Please comment if you're here, whether you're watching live. If you are watching live, comment over there. If you're watching on repeat, comment down there. We are a very interactive show, so we love to hear what you have to say. And above all else, help share the show with everyone you know. Spread the word. That is the way that you can help us out in the biggest way possible. Right off the bat, before we get started, I'm going to get this out of the way so we can get into everything and I don't have to worry about it at the end. Ladies and gentlemen, this 263rd episode is being brought to you live on Thursday, August 15th, 2025, which means as of 9 p.m., we are now at 227 days without correspondence from Muncie City Councilor Dale Basham. Today was one of those days in which I emailed Councilor Basham, and I have not received correspondence back from him in reference to today's email or I have not received anything back from him reference yesterday's email. I've not received anything back reference the questions that I've been asking. Nothing. Not a hi, not a bye, not a kiss my ass. Nothing. Not a go, not a come, not a anything in between. It's just silence. Silence. Radio silence. So that's sad. 227 days with no communications from an elected official. And there's another term for elected officials, public servants. The fact that he can't or won't respond it's disgusting. So I just put that out there so people can know elections have consequences, and this is one of those consequences. We must remove people like this from office. This man should not be a public servant. He works for me, but yet he will not communicate with me. How does that work? I cannot comprehend that. I just cannot comprehend that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today it's been a busy day. We've got a lot done. There's been a lot of things happening. Just a couple of hours ago, our team that's more like it. He won't respond, Stumblefoot. That is more like it. Our team put on the first of 3 town halls for Libertarian candidate Donald Rainwater, and that was a trying experience. A lot of people would think it's just like this, but no, it's not. It's not just like this. See, these are mine, are ours. The product that we create here belongs to Kate Brandon and I. It's our baby, and we can screw it up any way that we want. What we just helped produce and host for Rainwater is the campaigns. And so I was a little bit more nervous tonight than normal. Matter of fact, if you watch the debate, it's not a debate, really. It's not a debate. It's a town hall forum. It's a question and answer. If you watch that event, this would be an interesting little game. Tell me at what point, if you watch this, if you think about it, let me know at what point in the actual hour-long event that my anxiety comes down. If you can tell me that, that would be interesting. I'd like to see who can get close to it. And Kate doesn't count because she knows. Rainwater was more relaxed than the first time. Well, and here's what's interesting is because we've actually had Rainwater on dozens of times, and we were talking to him after, and he was a little anxious, he said, for various other reasons. But I think it was great. It's just a smattering of different questions. Tonight, I think we ended up asking him a total of 8 questions. And although that doesn't seem very much, when he's on our program and we have him for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and it's just a long form conversation, a give and a take, you get a better chance of just knowing the individual. Tonight, there were 8 questions that he answered, and he answered them magnificently. I mean, it was a wonderful job. Tonight was a great first run. The next town hall that we will do will be on Thursday, September 12th at 7 p.m. and it'll go a little smoother. And then the final town hall will be on Thursday, October 17th. And I think it'll probably go smoother than all of them. You know, you get better as you go along. So if you did not catch tonight's, number one, it will be available for you to watch. You can find it on our platform and all of the ways that you watch us. You can find it. It's available for watch right now. A little bit later tonight, you will be able to hear it in the audio format as well. But if you want to continue watching them, tune in obviously in September and then tune in October. We would love to have you along for the ride. But even though it was a little bit different than, say, us having rainwater on our show, because what you witnessed tonight, if you watch this, isn't the same thing as us having rainwater on. When we have rainwater on, he's a guest on our show and we're able to kind of be loose or whatever and kind of a little bit more, cut up. But that was kind of a serious, venture. But he's still rainwater. I mean, to me, he's basically the same across the board. And his answers are always very well thought out. As I think GW said, I need to get on here. I think that he definitely was better, more plain spoken, and just comes off better than all three of the lieutenant governor candidates put together. It's my opinion that he's better off the cuff and better in the moment than Braun is. And Jennifer is an educator. She's used to speaking. She's used to speaking in front of people and used to coming up with things off the cuff. She speaks well, but I just happen to like Don's policies and his politics a little bit better than Jennifer's. But that's what it is. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. Yeah, the big thing is I'm waiting to see rainwater against McCormick and Braun in the two debates. Now, I will tell you. No, I'm not going to say it. I need to wait to find out. I can't wait to see him against those three, the other two. I can't wait to see the three of them together. I think it will be interesting because, listen, for those of you that didn't watch his debate against I forget the Democrat, the doctor. I forget him.
Woody.
How
could you forget that?
Yeah, Dr. Woody. Woody. For those of you that watched the debate between Woody, Don, and Eric, I don't care what the Indy Star says. I don't care what the media apparatus around the capital city says as they're trying to be beholden to the governor and the HRCC. Rainwater mopped the floor with both of them 4 years ago. And I think that he will do the same in this debate. So I can't wait to see. The debates will be in October, and I am excited for it. So, yeah, that'll be cool. Okay, so tonight's show, ladies and gentlemen, the 263rd episode, Always a Fight versus Always Right. We will kind of break that down, and I'll explain what that is in just a little bit. It's Thursday. I was supposed to go to the Muncie Redevelopment Commission meeting this morning. I just did not get there. We were working last night on the rainwater deal until really late, and then we got off the duck here, and we had I had some more stuff I needed to do, and so I didn't make it to the Muncie Redevelopment Commission meeting. But I still watched the Redevelopment Commission meeting. And the meeting lasted, it was a short meeting. It lasted just around an hour and 23 minutes. And that's pretty short for the Redevelopment Commission meetings. So we're going to recap what happened in that meeting. I'm going to give you some commentary and tell you some thoughts that I have and I've heard from some other people. I've talked to my analysts that are out there in the world that observe this, Jackie Fisher being one of those, and got their different insights on the meeting. And so it amazingly matched up with exactly what I had seen from it. So when multiple people who are of various different backgrounds are watching the same thing and they're all telling me the same thing that I am seeing from it, and these people come from various different abilities with politics. Some people have been politicking for an even longer time than I have been. Some people have just jumped into it in the last year. And across the board, all of these people are seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. It lets me know that pretty much what we're seeing is what it is. And I think that proves to be a rather big problem for the Ridenhour administration and the people who are put in place to kind of do his bidding and do what he wants. I think it's interesting just how bad of a job that Team Ridenhour does in every form and shape that there are. They just do such a horrible job. It's really crazy to me, honestly. I think back to the list of promises that Rainwater ran on, and we put these 6 up pretty frequently. 2018 and 2019, the Rainwater campaign ran on these 6 tenets: to improve communication, to
The
improve
Ridenhour
transparency.
campaign. The Ridenhour
What did I
campaign.
say?
Rainwater.
Rainwater. Check. Yeah. Too much rainwater on the brain. The Ridenhour campaign. Let's redo that for the tape. The Ridenhour campaign in 2018 and 19 pushed these 6 tenets out as their platform, if you will. And it's just like it says, the first and most primary issue of the Ridenhour campaign was to improve communication. Next was to improve transparency, then to improve accountability, to slow government down, to improve the relationship between city and county elected officials, citizens, and everyone in between, and to put the best people in place. And he's failed miserably at each one of these. There's not a person out there. I don't care if you're Matt Kantz or you're Sherry Ridenhour or your Corey, Lori, Bori, Maury, Forey, Fink. I don't care who you are and what kind of weird cutesy name you've got. If you tell anyone, you tell me or anyone else that Ridenhour and his administration have been successful at one of these things, you are a liar. Or something's wrong with you. You don't understand. You can't grasp reality. You are a child. Something like that. because you cannot be a serious, healthy, mentally healthy, living, breathing adult and say that Ridenauer has done any of that. And we see how bad he's broken all of these in every action that he and his team have done constantly. Now, tonight, we're going to focus first on the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. Then we're going to talk. I have a little bit more I want to talk to you guys about, reference the security breach. And then we're going to end by a little bit of rainwater discussion. So that's the agenda for tonight's episodes. And number 4, he slowed government down so much it's moving backwards. Well, that could be said. Honestly, he jams it. He is the worst person for jamming something forward. I'm going to tell you, just real quick, to kind of to jump away from the MRC for a second, the thing that timing issues brought up last night, and I talked about it and we discussed it, but I went back and was listening a little bit last night, and I don't think I made a big enough deal about what timing issues brought forward to me. In the Board of Works yesterday, Craig Wright presented the claims. Linda had a question about one of the line items, one of the claims on there, and it was the cancer screening. And Craig Wright was like, yes, this is for the cancer screening, da 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 da. Listen, these firemen, they need that cancer screening. I'm not going to knock them. I've lost a lot of serious people in my life due to cancer. My father, my uncle. I'm all for these young men and women having access to this if they are putting themselves in a situation to save people's lives, and because of that, they could possibly be getting carcinogen, whatever, you know what I'm saying, carcinogens that are causing them cancer. You know, I'm okay with them getting this yearly screening, and I'm okay with the city paying for it. So I'm not saying that. I'm not bitching about that at all. I fully understand that if you hire a fireman, you have to outfit a fireman. If you hire 3 firemen, you have to outfit 3 firemen. If you hire 22 firemen, you have to outfit 22 firemen. I understand it. I understand if there's an issue with overtime, you got to deal with it. Now, long term, you've got to look at how you can cut that down and get away from that. But in the here and now, you got to deal with it. They've got the money. It's already been pushed forward. They've just got to do the change. What I don't understand, and what I will have an issue with, what I will completely take issue with, is the fact that the fire chief and not the controller, that's issue number 1, the fire chief put forward Ordinance 16-24 to the Muncie City Council on Monday, August 5th, and they voted 9-0 to introduce that. So in our system, what that means is they've introduced it. Over the next month, the counselors can talk to the firemen and get any other questions they need answered. And then they will come back at the first meeting in September. They will read that ordinance again. They will vote on that ordinance again, and that ordinance will pass. I'm here to tell you. It will pass. Even if it passed in a split vote of 5-4, it will pass, but it's not even going to be 5-4. It's going to be a 9-0 vote. So it is a done deal. However, the problem I have is I heard yesterday on Wednesday, the 14th, the Board of Works voted to approve the claim to pay for those things. Now, I'm trying to wrap my head around what's going on, and I sent an email to Craig Wright and to Fire Chief Burford, and I included a couple counselors in the email so they too would have this. And I just simply asked, like, what's going on here? They need to tell us. They need to explain this. This is a big deal. I didn't make a big enough deal about this last night. And, but I'm very happy. This is why this program is a big thing, because people bring stuff to our attentions. I'm telling you, I listened to it. I didn't think anything about it. I would have totally slipped my head if timing issues wouldn't have brought that forward. So in the email, I just said, during last council meeting on August 5th, MFD Fire Chief Burford put forward Ordinance 1624 for additional appropriations for the fire department. No one from the mayor's administration except for Burford was present. He pushed forward the ordinance and did an excellent job, for being the fire chief. Was what it was. But those appropriations were for three different things, if I recall. Cancer screenings, outfitting 22 FNG newbie firemen, and overtime. I then said, am I correct in that thinking? That's question number one. Moving on from there, if that is in fact correct, Ordinance 1624 was only up for introduction on August 5th. Now it did pass 9-0, but it would need a passing vote come the September 2024 meeting. That brings us to question number 2, which is, according to the most recent Board of Works meeting on Wednesday, August 14th, 2024, it appears that at least 2, if not all 3 of those items mentioned above were in the claims and voted on by the Board of Works members. I would not have thought this would have needed to go. I would have thought this would have needed to go back to the council in September for the final vote. You can hear this by clicking the link below and jumping to the 3-minute and 52-second mark. I'll provide you with the link. Parentheses, don't worry, this is a safe link. I promise it leads to the city's Board of Works meeting from the 14th of August. I know you guys are dealing with enough security breach issues. I'm not trying to add to it. And then I provided the link and I said, so the question is, what's going on here? Any help? So I sent that out to the city at 5:39 today, which means the fire chief and Craig will get it tomorrow if they go in. And hopefully I'll get a response back. So that's that. I needed to put that out there because that's a big deal. And you're right. The Board of Works is just another hand of the Ridenhour ordeal. That's literally all that is. Stand by. Oops. Okay, so that's that. Now, moving on to the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. Okay. Let me get this shared here. This meeting occurred today at 9 a.m.
All right, good morning and welcome to the August 15th, 2024 meeting of the Muncie Redevelopment Commission. I will now call this meeting to order and we will take roll. Mr. Bishop?
Yes.
Mr. Dale?
Present.
Mr. Miller, I'm here. Mr. Pravilla is out sick today. And Ms. Wagley?
Yes.
And Mr. Lowe?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, looking over the agenda, I would like to suggest an amendment today that we remove the update from the Muncie Downtown Development Partnership. They were not able to make it today. So that's my suggested amendment. Does anybody else have any suggestions for that today?
I just got a question. Is it the plan? I see we have an action item on the land bank, on the MOU.
Mm-hmm.
Are we planning on taking action on that today?
I believe so, yes.
And because Nate Howard is here from the land bank, have they received a copy of the MOU that we've all received?
That'd be a question.
You have to approve it before.
We,
It's not, I mean, there's many things that you got to approve. It.
Yeah.
It's based on the conversations that we've had and things we've outlined to them.
Yeah.
So we had, well, Isaac was there, the mayor was there. We outlined what it was going to be.
Yeah.
We talked about it last month, what it was going to be.
The only thing I can speak to is I know that we've obviously had our meeting. This MOU, in my opinion, is reflective of our conversation that we had with Nate. And then I did call Nate last month now to just explain some of the terms and things to him. So that's
my only thought is on an MOU, it's kind of a two-way street. Would it not be fair for he to have a copy of this before we vote on it so that if he has any questions?
But we'll present it today.
But is it not fair for him to be able to have a copy of it?
I think if I'm understanding it correctly, and Ben, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we would hypothetically pass this MOU and then it would be on the land bank to review it and agree to those terms if they want to. So they will still have a chance to review it. And then I guess hypothetically they could reject it if they didn't like it. I don't believe they will do that based on our conversations. I hope they wouldn't, but I think that's kind of how that process works. Mr. Freeman, is that correct?
Yes.
From your saying? Okay.
They don't have to agree to anything.
Okay. So,
The nature of an MOU is typically you exchange, and by the time you get to this point where we're approving or they're approving, that we've at least understood that both parties have seen the same document.
okay.
So is it not fair that maybe he could have a copy of it?
It doesn't bother me if he has.
I want to stop this. I got to be honest. This is hard to listen to. I've just talked to Rainwater for all told off camera, on camera, and then off camera again. I've talked to Rainwater for close to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I cannot tell you how utterly frustrating it is to sit and talk to Rainwater, who answers questions politely, even tough questions politely, who is educated, who doesn't attempt to make you feel like you're an asshole for asking a question, who attempts to talk in a manner where you know he's educated and intelligent, and he talks to you, not at you, not above you, not under you, but he talks to you, with you, in a way that it makes you feel like you understand, but he's not talking like down. You don't feel like he's dumbing it down. You feel like he's answering you in a way that you're having a sophisticated conversation with a man. And he can I've seen him talk to professors and highly qualified and intelligent people. And I've seen him talk to just, very not educated people. I've seen him talk to all kinds. And he is excellent with them all. Then you hear this. And it blows me away, because Isaac is like just a total douchebag. He is so smug and arrogant and feels like he is somebody or something. And he is just the piddliest of the peons, the littlest of the littles. And Jeff Howell is in there, and Jeff Howell, like, these meetings are completely, he hates these meetings now. He used to love them when he was on the board. He loved it. He doesn't like these meetings anymore because that's the only thing that he does. He doesn't get to do any cool thing now. He's just the errand boy, like running the message back from Dan to the board, from the board back to Dan. That's all he does, you know? And so he does not, he's not having fun. So he's kind of like arrogant and mad. And what Andrew, their total mission is to tell Andrew no on anything. Andrew's like, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And they're like, "No." Andrew's like, "Is it Thursday?" And they're like, "No." Andrew's like, Am I bald?" And they're like, "No." I don't care what he says to these people. They will not throw him a bone. Now, I'm kind of, well, we'll hear here in a second, but all he's saying is we're getting ready to vote on an MOU. That is, we are agreeing to enter into, and we talked about this last night, memorandum of understanding with the land bank. And he's like, shouldn't the other party have a copy of the agreement? And they're like, "No, we talked about it. It's okay. He knows. It's all good. It's all good." No, man. It's not. The other guy should have a copy. That's common freaking sense. So the Duncan guy is Isaac Miller. Isaac douchebag Miller. He's not a good guy. He's the guy that's flip, that's just like, you know. He's so rude and smug and arrogant and smug. And that stupid freaking beard that he has, man. All right, let's continue listening to this. Yeah, that's right, Jack.
Copy of it. He knows the details of it, so it doesn't bother me either way.
It doesn't bother me either way. I've still got this beard here.
I can give him my copy if he wants. That's no problem. And
I think that'd be fair.
And if he'd like to come
fair.
comment on it during discussion today, he's more than welcome to. Obviously,
Right.
we welcome that. So yeah, fine by me.
Would you come forward? Sounds like you're going to get.
Yeah, I've got my copy if he wants mine.
Yeah, we can share my copy then.
That's fine.
You know, and listen, I actually talked to somebody today that said, you know, just at least we can be grateful he didn't make it onto the council. Thank God. Yeah, no, he did. He made it onto the council. It's the older version of him. He made it onto the council in the form of Dale Basham. Someone to me today said, "But isn't Andrew Dale like Andrew Dale's no better than the rest of them? He's always just fighting. He's the opposite side fighting." And I'm like, okay, maybe in a world I could see where someone would be like, "But Andrew Dale's just always got something to say." But he's just fighting for transparency, folks. Like, listen, I would fight for everything. I would bring up every point Andrew's brought up My thing is I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it as polite as Andrew does. I would match Isaac's contempt pound for pound. Arrogant, aloof, ballsy, cavalier, cocky, haughty. Yeah, imperialist, pompous, presumptuous, pretentious, smug, vain. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so for those of you that are like, yeah, but isn't Andrew, listen, the moment that you get Shireen and Isaac to pull back, I mean, the tension is so thick, you can cut it with a knife. I was talking to someone tonight and they were like, you can feel it through the screen, through the wires. You don't even have to be there. You can feel like the tension. And it like then passes on to me. I've had to hear this second time. Bilbrey's ah, God. I just, you know what I want him to do is I want him to put on a leather jacket and some jeans and stand up next to a jukebox. That's what I want. This board is making decisions. They should be asking questions. Yeah, that's true. It's more like a 5 o'clock shadow. That's true too. And really, I don't know. It could be drawn on.
If I can find it. 1, 2, 3. Are there any other action items on the agenda today for anybody?
None for me.
Anything else? I think that's everything out of my packet. Yeah.
I will,
Yeah.
to the extent that I can, go over the claims because Mr. Wright is not here today.
Go over the claims. Okay, thank you. Okay, I will take a motion to approve the agenda with my amendment, if possible.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay,
Second.
motion and a second. Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Dale?
Yep.
Mr. Miller, yes, and Ms. Wagley.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. We will move on to the claims, or no, I'm sorry, I'm moving ahead too fast. We'll move on to the approval of the previous meeting memoranda. Does anybody have any comments on those? I believe you were sent those on Monday.
I have just one comment.
Okay.
I had provided a response back to Mr. Howe when we were talking about roles and responsibilities. And at length, I spoke about the state statute and what the state statute says we are to do. And I'd appreciate those comments being entered into the record. And so I would move the minutes as presented with those comments. And I can provide those comments right now, or I can send those comments.
You mean your comments regarding state statute for like the spending plan?
No. So I would suggest, and we'll get this on tape and it can be chronicled if we desire to move these with the minutes and approve it. But Dale responded to Mr. Howe's comments about responsibilities and roles that he understands per statute that the role and responsibility of the MRC is larger than what Mr. Howe shared, and that the Indiana Redevelopment Commission code states such, specifically that redevelopment commissions are to be proactive and conduct investigations and undertake planning activities that inform and direct future actions of the Redevelopment Commission. Dale stated that he believes that the MRC needs to be more proactive and less reactive to requests made. So I'm making that part and parcel with my motion that my response to that, which I think was very kind and considerate, be made a part of the minutes.
Okay, and that's under this responsibilities and roles section here, correct?
Yeah, it was just in response to where
Okay.
Mr. Howe had stated what he did.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor then to amend the minutes with those comments. Do I have a second?
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
We're going to do that.
Oh,
Hold on.
go ahead,
Got a
Mr.
motion on the floor. You need a second before you can move on to.
Okay, that's fair. Do I have a second for that motion? Okay, hearing none, the motion dies.
I get so sick of this, man. Well, first of all, I'm mad. I'm kind of mad that I'm kind of mad that Duran over here didn't second Andrew's motion. I feel like he should have. I feel like maybe he didn't because he wasn't here at the last meeting because he had a concussion. And some say it was because he was hungry like the wolf and he was chasing and fell and hit his head, but I don't know about that. Anyhow, he wasn't here at the last meeting, and so maybe that's the reason he didn't second it, but he normally does. I don't know why he didn't. I'm mad that he didn't. He should have. But he didn't second Andrew's motion. So what happens here? I know, Jack. I know. It was corny. So Andrew says, I want something added into the minutes, something that actually occurred. It's not like he's asking for anything crazy. He's saying, I would like something that actually occurred to be added into the minutes. And every single one of them should say, okay, second. But we've got to hope that that I can't even remember his real name now. Duran will do it. Normally he does. But he whatever, okay? Zane Bishop. That's right. Yes, Zane Bishop. That sounds enough like, that sounds good too. Zane Bishop. But all Andrew's saying is like, I just want an accurate record of what happened. And they're like, no, we can't have that. So Jeff Howe asked if he could say something. And they were going to let him say, but a motion had already been made. So they're like, the attorney's like, no, there's a motion. We've got to wait, see if there's like a second motion or not. So Andrew's motion died for lack of a second. So now they're just going to go on without transparency. So Jeff doesn't need to then say his comment, but they still let him anyways. And listen to what he says here. Listen. Listen to what he says here.
Mr. Howe, with your comments.
Well, my only comment was going to be, my discussion was, a high level overview of what we do. So it should reflect that. It wasn't intended to be all inclusive. It wasn't intended to be, an exhaustive list. It was an overview. So I wouldn't want it to reflect that I had to be corrected or my commentary had to be more characterized. It was an overview.
Sure.
But or
okay.
That's just my comment.
Sure. And my comments were just specifically to the statute and what we're charged to do.
Okay. So that motion
my
has
comment was
failed.
this, and my
do I have
comment
a
was this,
motion
and my
to
comment was
pass
this.
the minutes as presented?
I had a question
Go
and
ahead.
a comment. Maybe I missed this. Just we're calling these meeting memoranda instead of meeting minutes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I asked a question last month, and I do apologize because I think I didn't clarify well enough. So, Mr. Freeman, I think you've indicated that is a format that's appropriate for our meetings, correct, to an extent? If you want to elaborate on that.
I have a microphone now.
That's great.
Yeah, it's the change in definitions is just to comply with the way it's defined in state code, is that we keep meeting memoranda.
No.
Great.
And then
Thank you.
I haven't had a chance to review the
There's not been anything that's happened that's changed anything. They've just changed from doing minutes, which they've always done, to doing memoranda now. And though the definition for meeting memoranda just means less detail. Just less detail. That's all. That's all. So I hate that. I picked up on it last time, and he tried to get the attorney to say it. He's trying to make it seem like it's the attorney's doing. It's not. It's their doing. It's Isaac's doing. It's Dan's doing. It's Jeff Howell's doing. So whatever. Shireen is talking or making eye comments to Craig Wright. Oh no, Craig Wright is not in the audience. I don't know who she's doing that for. I don't. Yeah, they're working towards no details. I don't know who she's doing that to. I was going to say it was Craig Wright, but he's not here, so I don't know.
The video in public comment, I'm guessing Holly Yipe is who I'm thinking of. So I'm pretty sure the last name is spelled
Yeah, I did notice that.
Juip.
That's correct.
So that would be my only amendment.
Okay. So is that a motion from you to pass them with that?
Yeah, don't quote me on the spelling, but
It is
I believe it's
JUIP.
JUIP, right? Yeah.
okay.
I only know that because I got it wrong last month and had to be corrected. So, okay. So there's a motion to pass the minutes with the amendment to Miss Yipe's. Is it Yipe's name? Yipe is how I pronounce it?
Yes.
Okay. Miss Yipe's name. And I will second that. We'll go to roll. Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Dale,
Nope.
Mr. Miller, yes, and Miss Wagley.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 3-1. And then we'll move on to the claims. Go ahead, Mr. Howe.
Point of order.
Yeah.
Was that the motion to amend the proposed minutes? Do we vote on the?
So my
Approval
question to you was, were you
Okay.
motioning to pass the minutes?
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry.
With the name. Go ahead, Mr. Howe.
Okay. You have the claims before you. And I don't have much in the way of, I've got some notes from Craig. If you have questions, my notes are somewhat limited, but
Mine wasn't a question, just a notice, so the public's aware and we're all aware. I noticed that the 250,000 for the Ontario or the Innovation Connector pass through. I
Mhm.
noticed that's on the claims this month. So just to note that did come through.
I only had two questions. One is the Y closed now? Is the former YMCA, is that closed?
it is.
So we most likely won't be seeing too many more invoices for utilities?
We should not.
No.
We don't know.
Okay,
We will not.
okay. And the only other question I had was, on a couple of months I've asked this, but on the Columbus Avenue work that USI Consultants is doing, I think they're billing $33,500 this month, and I'm sure it's all for good stuff, but I think we're
I'm
getting
sure it's all
up there in cost. Do we know what those overall costs are going to be? Was there an agreement? Was there a contract on that? And if so, can we get a copy of that? I think we're at 100 now, if I'm not mistaken. And that may be perfectly legitimate. I just want to know how much we're,
Well, we contributed dollars to it. There are other dollars in it as well. We contributed dollars for infrastructure. That's part of that bond.
Yeah.
We'd have to go back and look and see what well, wait a minute, it should say here, shouldn't it? Let's see.
That contract is most likely in Municode, I would think. Board of Works would have had to pass it
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, because it would have been all inclusive.
because the contract wasn't with us.
Right. That's my point. We contributed money to it. I don't
Yeah.
know what the total contract was. May have heard, but I'd be
Maybe
afraid to
not in
speculate.
Municode, but Board of Works should have whatever contracts were.
Right.
if there's any way to get that, I'd appreciate it. We surely knew what our portion was, I would think.
I think we have to ask the Board of Works secretary would be my guess.
Okay. Maybe we can gather that as a resource for next month if needed. Are there any other
Why
questions about
is
the
this
claims?
so-
Wasn't she
Fucking
on
hard.
the board and Isaac on the board when they voted to approve a certain amount of money
All
to
right.
go toward
Mr.
that
Bishop?
project?
Yes.
Mr. Dale,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
me a
yes, Ms.
number.
Wagley.
Yeah. Right. Right. I mean, it's so everything is done to kind of obfuscate and to just dance around the truth and to not be open and honest and to just make this a game.
Yes.
Passes 4-0. Thank you. Mr. Howe, go ahead with your report for us today.
Okay. Well, with the financial update, we have the balances of the TIFs. All those are identified, total at $687,000 for focused TIF funds. We have other planned investments, the markets on Madison, White River Lost Phase 2, and the well, here's our balance for the McKinley Ready. That's the money. and then the Till Pond at 292, and the Parks investments at 194. So go down to the non-focused or committed funds. We have, let's see, the sale, or this would be revenues.
Someone doesn't talk like he's talking if they're saying shit they know. He wouldn't be talking like this if this was his information that he had jotted down to help keep him like on track. He's acting like he's reading this for the very first time. Like, do you agree? You agree with that, Kate? Like, hearing how he like stumbling along and he just seems so confused. Did
I jump over something? Hang on a second.
What?
No, this would be projected income. We have the store lot sale at $1 million, a little over $1 million, and the Sportsplex property sale at 735. And then we have the allocated spending is the Gilmore Place at 400, which is our contribution to that project. Store Estates Park, which is 170, and the Village Hilton, which is our annual contribution to help Ball State with the village work, and then the remainder of the city match on the McKinley at 27,000. So gives us the total estimated consolidated TIF balances of $2.2 million estimated for the end of the year.
So we've closed on store and Sportsplex.
We have not closed on the Sportsplex. It was not intended to close till the end of the year.
So listen. He said, so we've closed on the store estates, which is that empty lot where they're going to build homes. D.R. Horton's going to build homes someday, and the Sportsplex that D.R. Horton's supposed to build homes on. So Andrew said, so we've closed on both of these. And Jeff says, we have not closed on one of them. We have not closed on the Sportsplex because it wasn't supposed to happen till the end of the year. All right, listen to this. What happens?
And then store is they have
store. Listen, it is a yes or no question. Have we closed on store?
taken down some lots. In fact, that's part of my updates. So
they're taking down some lots. What's that mean? They've taken down some lots. Listen.
They've taken down, they've got building permits and still working through, and I'll just move into that. The city engineer's working through the last few punch list items with the developer. Building permits, some building permits have been issued. The pickleball courts have been painted and apparently are being played upon. The assembly of the playground equipment is nearly done, and we should start seeing homes start to come out of the ground maybe in September. It's been my understanding, I haven't had this conversation with them, but it's been my understanding, passed to me, that the developer is not going to work out there with other contractors out there.
What? The director, the developer, D.R. Horton, is not going to work out there with any other contractors out there. Have you ever heard of such nonsense? Imagine we're talking about an area we're talking about a neighborhood, a whole neighborhood with roads and streets that's just completely flat. And they're saying that the developer couldn't go to one end and let the people finish the pickleball court. No, they've said that they are not going to work out there with the other people around them. They are just not going to do that.
Just going to wait till everybody else is out of the way.
Okay.
So,
sure.
So that's what their plan is.
No, excuse me, you didn't explain. Have they closed on Store Estates? Yes or no?
Did I hear you correctly? They have closed on some homes or some lots.
They have, building permits issued. I don't know.
No. Did you hear him? Did I hear you correctly? Did you say they have closed on some lots? He says, yeah, no. Listen.
In September. It's been my understanding, I haven't had this conversation with them, but it's been my understanding passed to me that the developer is not going to work out there with other contractors out there. They're just going to wait till everybody.
Did somebody ask them why and who the hell they are and why that is and what that's ridiculous. What's the deal? All right, listen, here it comes. Here's the big question.
The house is out of the way.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
So that's what their plan is.
Did I hear you correctly? They have closed on some homes or some lots.
They have, building permits issued. I don't know if the closings have happened yet, but the building permits have issued.
The building permits are being issued. Building permits are not going to be issued before the closing is done, period. They're not going to get they're not getting building permits, and no one's going to start working anywhere until the property is closed on. Why is this property not? Something is up. Why are they not closing on this property? This is the same thing. This is the same thing that they're doing that they did with Southway Plaza. Hey, there's a problem with Southway Plaza. Nobody's working at Southway Plaza. What's going on at Southway Plaza? Can you tell us what's happening at Southway Plaza? And every time they're like, nothing. Everything's good. It's on schedule. Everything's going good. There's no problem here. There's no problem here. And then 5 years into it, it's like, well, we don't know what happened, but just like 2 months ago, the developer up and quit. And so we're going to show him, we're not going to give him any more money. It's like, who cares? How much have you given? In this situation, they keep kicking it past it, and they keep talking in circles and saying no, yeah, and yeah, no, and yes, and this and that. And one of these days, they're going to come out and they're going to be like, well, okay, it fell through. Why are they not closing on the property? The back row is the Coopers, and they're here to get shit on by the city government in a moment. We'll listen to what they got to say.
So, and then my other updates, I'll back to the top. The Tillotson Pond, we did receive 2 bids on the construction of the recreational park that's been commonly referred to as the Till Pond. Those bids were opened last week. The contract, is that last week before? The contract was awarded. The final cost came in at approximately $900,000. The MRC, the DNR grant that we sought, that we got, and the edits are all providing about a third of that, a third each. So I don't know when the contractor is going to start out there. I worked on the RFP on that, so it was kind of my first time to ever do that. And, got it done. Took a while, but got it done. But it was really an interesting process to get to understand a little bit more. We've talked about it at the park. We've seen drawings, but to dig into the pieces and the parts of it, and how we need it to be constructed and stuff was kind of an interesting thing. So I'm really looking forward to that. And
Jeff, just as a point of interest for me, can you expand a little bit on the work that they're going to be doing out there? I know we've seen the drawings.
They're going to build. I wish I had that with me, but they're going to build. There's a trail that'll go around that pond. Okay. There is an ADA accessible fishing pier. Okay. There are 3 other fishing piers that would not be necessarily ADA, but the ADA fishing pier is pretty big.
Yeah.
There's what I call an event lawn. So just a place for people to have events. There's a shelter, 3 shelters maybe. I think so. 2 or 3 shelters on the facility parking lot, and then access back from the park into that neighborhood that adjoins it.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Thank
so
you.
it's Nice.
Sorry, it's off the top of your head.
No,
I know that was.
that's okay.
no.
That's all right. Well, because I did that RFP, I know a little bit more. I might
Yeah.
not have been a
What is
little more high
dude
level if not.
saying?
Sure.
The point, my last update was when it either was supposed to go out for bid on the 14th. I have not been able to confirm that it went out yesterday, but the 14th or the 21st, the bid was going out. And as soon as the bids are received, then the contract will be awarded, and then we'll start seeing construction soon after that.
Good question.
Of course, there's been
Tweety Bird.
demo taking place.
If they're going to stop, I don't know.
The High Street
asked?
Plaza,
Yeah.
we are on
Yeah,
ongoing
good
discussions with the
question.
developer and the
Who
anchor
knows?
tenant.
Maybe it is
The anchor
not.
tenant, I think I may have mentioned this before, but it's kind of one of those things. There's no building to lease yet, so making sure they're still, excited about it. They have affirmed they still have a very strong interest of being there. That's certainly going to make things better for the developer if he has the anchor. So, but we meet probably, I think it's every 2 weeks. I think we meet to talk about how that's going, and so we're optimistic. But it is, it's a long project. It'll take a while, and because once the tenant commits, I guess. Not sure exactly when they'll commit, but once the tenant has decided that's where they want to be, and they've decided that, we can put a deal together that makes sense, then they'll start figuring out, what, how they're going to fund the project and those kind of things. So it'll be a bit. So I think that's all I have.
You have your participation in the.
Oh, yes, yeah. Just a heads up, I guess, more than anything. They're doing an updated comprehensive plan. It is now the Delaware County Muncie comprehensive, the Together DM plan. And I've been asked to sit on the steering committee of quality of place and housing. I think there are 3 steering committees. Can't remember what the third one is, to be honest with you. I just heard it last night, but I'm not on that one. But so we had really good discussion about all the potential partners and the things that might go into that plan as it related to some quality of place things. And then last night was a meeting about housing and the need for housing and those kind of things. Pretty early, had one meeting each, but we're at the table, so we'll see how that goes.
Great.
So I think the last comprehensive plan was done, I think they said in 2000. So, yeah.
Okay.
I asked last night how closely the community adhered to that plan. I didn't get, I don't know if anybody knew.
Sure.
So, but this plan is, I think, to be fair, but they said this plan is a much more robust in the fact that it will have,
Yes, Jack.
checks, accountabilities,
Yes,
follow-ups
you're
and
exactly
things.
right.
The other was
Speech
a lot
issues
about
are not an
zoning and
issue.
those kind of
Lack
things.
of
Having
details is
not
really-
been a part of that before, I don't know, but I was just trying to figure out, how our community had been disciplined about that other plan. But
Sure.
I think it's maybe. It's a
Yes,
little-
you're right.
I was only
Keyword.
10.
I believe
Was
they're
that right,
they're
Jim?
dressing.
Mr. Howe, did they talk about how entities like the MRC will be folded into that process?
That's a lot what it was about. And Nate was there last night. It was who the partners are and, the land bank and the MRC and community development and private investors and private developers and financial institutions who might play any kind of a role and how exhaustive that list is. And then reach out, talk to those folks to explain, kind of what's going on. And I kind of left the meeting thinking it was kind of a contact that we're going to do this. We'd love to hear how you think you might play a role and we'll get back with you. So, but again, pretty early for us.
Thanks.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of where we are with that. But I just wanted you to know we're kind of working on some of that stuff.
Okay.
So
We can, if you're finished, Mr. Howe, we can go ahead.
I just have one, I just want to make sure I understand. Store has closed on a portion of the lots, or has there been any closing yet?
I don't know if the closing has taken place, but the building permits have been, some of the building permits have been issued. And I think they're working through some last punch list things. I'm not sure what those punch list things are, but those last punch list things with the city engineer. So that's been kind of a progress thing. But I think part of it is they are not going to go out there and start building.
So then we've got another lie. If they're still walking through the punch list, then they did not do their final walk on the 19th of July when they told us that they were going to do their final walk. If they're still working,
Or they did a walk and they found more shit that wasn't done.
Yeah. But yeah, either way, it wasn't their final walk.
But how is he not talking to the city engineer? I mean, he's supposed to be the economic development guy. So he should be the one who's talking to the engineer, talking to the developer, seeing where the project's at, knowing what's going on. And all I hear out of him is from, well, you know, the stuff.
Yeah. It'll be great. It's not until 2024.
How many building permits? If there are building permits and those lots have closed, you can't get a building permit without closing. I don't understand what this man is doing as an economic development director if he's not talking to these people and actually keeping tabs on all these projects.
Well, yeah,
he's not an economic development director. He's a mouthpiece.
No, yeah, he's a mouthpiece. Well, that's, they don't call him the economic development director. He's not called the economic development director. That's really, they're not lying. They don't call him the economic development director. He's called the MRC director. He's the director of the MRC. To me, he's not that. He's a mouthpiece. You're exactly right.
Well, even if he's just the director of the MRC, he's supposed to be the one that stands up there and gives them answers to all these questions.
Yeah.
Building permits should be public record. Yes.
Yes, they are. And I will look into that tomorrow. Yeah. He is chosen for, you're exactly right, Jack.
Houses until the Parks Department's done, or whoever's assembling a playground, and whoever was doing the other stuff.
Right. And they won't start building until the closing happens too, obviously.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. But one may follow the other.
Listen, right there, common sense. But then listen to what he says. Listen when he's like, "Oh shit, he got me." But listen to what he says.
I'm not sure which is following which, but that's what we've been led.
I'm not sure which is following which. Well, let me clear it up for you. They will not get the building permits, and they will not be allowed to get the building permits, and they will not start building with those building permits until it all goes through and it's a done deal. Dude.
To believe they're not going to build.
And to that point, I think our agreement with them is they'll do it a third at a time, correct? Or like roughly a third of the lot.
Yeah,
it's like 11, 12.
Yeah, I think it's
10, 11.
It's not evenly, but yes, I think it's somewhere in that ballpark.
So that contract's been expedited. Can we get a copy of that to understand what that contract says? I've never seen that.
I think we have that in our
I'd love to have a copy of it.
Because we passed it last year. I want to say last year was when that passed.
Yeah.
So
if I was love to have an emailed copy.
It's in our records somewhere. I know that. So we can move on to other business then. If anybody else has any other comments, you have Mr. Howell, would you lead the discussion on this resolution for director spending policy?
Yeah.
I believe we have a copy of that in your packets.
You should have, yeah. So you have before you a resolution that allows me to make some expenditures between meetings. Mayor and I spoke about this and agreed that this would allow me to move some things along.
I tell you what, we'll wait. Go get the paperwork. We'll wait. We'll sit here and wait.
Between the meetings, we've had some examples of that. One thing is I've had conversation with a couple different folks about possibilities of another hotel downtown. Both have indicated they'd like to see the feasibility study. We have a feasibility study that we paid for a couple of years ago, but it was focused around a East Side hotel. I pass it along thinking that the number of rooms that we need probably don't change based on this 3 miles as the crow flies, but they want something that specifically addresses downtown. So we've talked to the folks that did the last one, tried to get a reliance letter that they could just tell us we could rely on that for that, but they won't do that. And I get that, but you got to ask, right? But we haven't been able to do anything. Now I've had conflicting. We have department heads that spend money and it goes through the claims, and we certainly have things that go through the claims that get approved clearly after they've happened. But we're just trying to figure out how we can avoid things getting hung up between meetings that we feel like we need to move forward on. So we've put that forward. I called the Department of Local Government and Finance and talked to Mr. Freeman, who has put this together for us. So asking you guys to take a look at it. And
yeah, I had a couple thoughts on it. I'm generally in favor of it. I think it would be wise of us as a commission to, the way that I've worded it is put a time limit on this allowance for a director. So, and Mr. Freeman, you can kind of help me craft the legal language on this maybe, but like my suggestion would be for us to limit this, this policy to be during like only the term of the current director, right? So that way, if Mr. Howe decides to move on to other opportunities or do other things and we get a new director, then we can re-examine if we want that new director to also be able to spend as needed in between meetings. That was one thought that I had. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on this or preferences, but just an idea.
I was wondering how this compared to the spending limit for other city departments.
Yeah,
Just
right.
hand them the checkbook.
Yeah, right.
Heaven forbid they have to wait a few weeks. Most of the stuff
No.
is net 30.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
They have
Shereen,
meetings
no, I
every
don't know.
I believe
days.
anything over
Yeah.
5,000, they just have to have higher permission, but they're handed their department's budgets, and then, I mean, you know how that works. So they, they have a budget and that's what they spend, and MRC has a budget and you're the director. So my thought on it was that falls under there, that you wouldn't have to come to us for every expenditure, but I don't mind doing something like this if it just makes it more.
Yeah, I think I would
And
prefer us.
Sure.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I think I would prefer us to do something like this. Just, I just always like to add an extra layer just to be safe, right? And so I think this is fair. But beyond that, that's.
Is there a cap on the amount?
My thinking is,
I don't know no, I guess not. Isn't this weird? I don't get it.
I'm into making things simple. And I'm trying to think of an instance where
Listen here.
this organization has caused any delays, otherwise not being asked, hey, we've got to make a decision. I've got something I want to present, and that this body can't come together in very short order. We do it with the Fire Merit Commission on 2-day notice. Why we need a policy?
How long does it take?
Why we need a policy for something where we can meet. And then the example you've provided, which is an actual example where you need something. I mean, you could ask today, we could have approved it just now, as an example of what I'm saying. But that question deserves some discussion with the commission. And that's where I keep going back to being proactive versus reactive. So if something's been done that promulgates a big decision or puts us in a position where we're heading down the road on something that we've not spoken about and said, this is something that we think is a laudable thing, then we've spent money that we probably shouldn't have spent. So I'm just one for less layers and just common sense.
Man, it's hard
knowing
he's
that
a Democrat.
Any body of the city can get together within days' notice to answer a question. Now, if a tree falls over and kills somebody, and for some reason we're liable or we have some stake in the hunt, well, we have insurances. We have other funding sources that could be spent, like edit, which is like grandma's nightshirt. It covers everything. You can always recoup that money through, you can come to us and say, hey, we spent this, it can be recouped. But it just seems like we're developing a policy that's not needed because we can come together in very short order and help make the best decision possible.
48-hour
So I think, at least speaking to Jeff's example, Jeff, you had this request, was it last week for?
No, it was
No.
shortly after the last meeting. I mean, it's set for weeks, but,
Okay.
but I mean, how long does it take and we'll get it when we get it, but it could have been started. Maybe you'll decide that you don't want to do another feasibility study.
And what the point that I'm getting to, I guess, in response to being able to just gather people, I worry about that personally. I think that's a little bit unrealistic with a 5-person commission, just because, we're missing a commission person today, right? That could hold some weight in passing things. Mr. Bishop was gone.
You only need
last
3
month
to
this
show
season,
up, you
so,
crazy asshole.
That holds some weight on
Yeah.
passing things and getting things accomplished or not accomplished if they need to be rejected. And in little instances like that, I don't see you
Stop.
using this spending power often.
He said if they need to be approved or if they need to be rejected. And that is why the board's supposed to vote on, because there's going to be shit that should be rejected.
Yeah. Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go away because I'll talk
No.
all the way through it.
No. You're fine. I love it. It could be too much testosterone. I really think more than that, it's ignorance. It's too much shit, pig-headedness, nonsense, idiots. If there's too many idiots up there, that's the problem with Dan. Only the best, right? Only the best.
I think when the mayor acted as our director, I think he had to come to us to request a spending option like this maybe once or twice in the last few years. This would be the first instance. I think you would have come to us to request this.
Mhm.
So, I would rather, I guess my thought is Mr. Howe is he acts as our staff member, essentially. And I would rather empower him to be able to take the actions that are needed on small matters, right? That are, whatever this amount is and less. So that's my only thought. It's two sides of a coin.
It's not the expense, and it's certainly not about Mr. Howe.
Sure.
It's certainly, to me, it's about just the need or not need for a policy. You just stated that things have only come up on maybe 3 instances in 5 years.
That's true.
And I expect on this board to do my homework and to do more. And so meeting on a once in a blue moon occasion to say, hey, on such a big question of, hey, do we need more hotels in Muncie?
Sure.
Is deserving of a conversation.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Are there any other comments or?
Mr. Freeman, the MRC, as I said a minute ago, has a budget, just like any other department. Parks has a budget, whatever. And there's daily operating, the expenditure. So the department heads don't come to their board for every expense. They're approved claims after the fact, but there's, so much money for office supplies and so much money for contracts and so much money for mowing or whatever it is. Is this something that we even need? He's our staff person, should be able to.
Not every department has a board
Spend the
they
budget.
answer to.
No, well, number one, that, yeah, right. And if or when they do, it's the board of works or the council. And the problem is they need to be going to those boards more than what they do.
Well, yeah, and the items are specifically budgeted for office supplies, for this. That they're specifically already laid out that you're okay to spend $20,000 a year for reams of paper for the fucking printers.
Yeah.
So if you need to spend and you're still in your $20,000, that's an approved purchase already.
Right.
You have a budget that's here.
Yeah, right.
Redevelop Muncie.
Yeah.
Spend it how you want to.
Yes.
It's not laid out. This is for this project. That's your job. This is for this project. This is for this project.
Yeah.
Just because you have a budget doesn't mean diddly squat.
Yeah, right.
Not unless it's specified like that. They have to go to the boards that are above them, the council or whoever it is, if they're, I already spent my $20,000 and I need more paper. So I have to go ask for an appropriation.
That's right. You're right.
She's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I knew she was stupid, but is she stupid?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Completely. It's that whole vocal fry she does.
with a dollar figure like the rest of the department has,
Reason.
which I think is 5,000, but don't quote me on that.
So what Indiana Code says is that the commission, the board members approve the claims for the expenditures for the board. So the MRC just statutorily is constituted a little bit differently than your it's not a typical department of the city. So it's not a direct
Wow.
it's not a direct analogy to compare it to other departments within the
Ding,
city.
ding, ding, ding.
However, code also does contemplate situations like this where it specifically empowers the MRC to set policies like this for, I don't think it uses the term spending limit or something like that, but it's similar to this through resolution that it can adopt rules for spending in the interim of meetings and approval of claims. So really it's what you want to do or not do. It's your authority. You can use it or not use it however you see fit. But in this instance, the statute contemplates empowering your treasurer, which is the city controller. But in this instance, you'd be delegating authority to your director to then tell him to. So it's
Sure.
it's creating an extra step, but it's fine if you want to, and if you don't, then you don't.
Yeah, we look at the claims that were just approved, 250,000 on the first page. Let's see, 51,000 on the second page. Last few pages, 80,000. All of those approved. No, last page, 800. All those approved in arrears.
Mm-hmm.
All spent.
Something already.
So I mean, it's
Are there any other comments from the commissioners on this?
The other departments have, like, their claims are approved by the Board of Works, which just meets weekly instead of this commission, which is monthly. So I think they do have something similar. I mean, I think I'd probably prefer to fall in line with the other departments. I understand that this commission is different, but I think that's a good base level to use across the board, since the commission is essentially acting as a city department.
Good.
Not necessarily. Many of the city functions are guided by a body like ours that helps set mission, definition, and goals and stated goals, and enters into projects. That influence, the difference is that we're influencing on the front end thoughts and points of action. That's very different than the city function, which is expediting the work with which it customarily does and which special projects point to. So I would differ on that.
That's fair. Okay. Well, this is an actionable item. So would anybody like to make a motion regarding this item today? Ms. Wagley, what's your motion?
No, of course, Wagley.
Do we have a number on it?
it does.
Being
Oh,
the
four.
It's $10,000 on it.
2024-04 resolution and as written.
Would you be willing to amend that to add in a time frame for this to be
Oh,
an
sure.
active
Yes.
policy? That time frame being the
Yes.
duration of Director Howe's
Yes.
tenure as our director. That's
Yes.
agreeable. Okay. So that's the motion.
That's the motion.
Okay. I will second that. We will go ahead and take roll. Mr. Bishop,
No.
Mr. Dale,
No.
Mr. Miller, yes. Ms. Wagley.
Yes.
Okay. Motion has no action taken. Okay. We will move on to the memorandum of understanding with the Muncie Land Bank. We talked about this at length last month. I don't know that there's much of a need to belabor it. Mr. Howard, if you'd like to give some comments, you're more than welcome to. Mr. Bishop, I know you weren't here last month, but my assumption is you've read it. But happy to clarify anything. I'm sure Mr. Howe can as well. Go ahead, Jeff. Oh, we've got yours.
Mhm. Okay. You got one?
That's fine.
It's okay.
God.
Go ahead, Mr. Howe.
Well, this is, the discussion would be the same as it was last month. I mean, we trying to find a way, use a couple of different funding vehicles to support the land bank. And we've come up with the options that were described then and are described in this. I put the MOU together and passed it through Mr. Freeman's office. And then Mr. Freeman prepared the resolution authorizing our executing this memorandum.
Yeah, only comment I have is, I think everybody knows this already. I'm in full support of this. It was great to work with Mr. Howard to come up with an agreement, and the mayor's office and Mr. Howe and myself sat down with him and we worked it out. So I'm excited about it. I think it's a good thing. I think it gives them a little bit more money over the course of the duration of the MOU than we've been giving them in the past. So that's exciting. So if there's no other discussion at this point,
I've just got one question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just a little irregularity in some of the wording under the first page under funding agreements under the pilot. Let me get my bearings here. It states the city of Muncie was recently awarded an affordable housing project that includes a payment in lieu of tax agreement resulting in an annual payment of $30,000 that increases by 3% for each of the 15 years ensuing. At the request of the Muncie Redevelopment Commission, the mayor has agreed to pass these funds through the Muncie Land Bank. But when you go to the second page in the first bullet under agreement states, the Muncie Redevelopment Commission agrees to encourage the mayor to allocate the pilot funds from the existing affordable housing project and the prospective project to the Muncie Land Bank. Those things are incongruous, and I would state that we should strengthen that second agreement to state that the Muncie Redevelopment Commission and the mayor agree to allocate, because that's what we state in the first funding agreement statement. Now, unless I'm reading it wrong.
I think that's a good point. And I think my understanding of it is this first part that you mentioned. We have done what we have done, which is encourage the mayor to pass the current pilot funds to them.
He has
So that's-
agreed.
and that's done because he agreed to it, and it's a line item in the budget and all sorts of other things. This next portion, though, says that we will agree to encourage the mayor to allocate the pilot funds of existing
Right,
affordable housing
Stumblefoot.
projects, which
That's
already been
good.
done, so that's great.
Mhm.
And
Not-
then there are
not-
prospective projects in
not
the
ever.
future, we hope and pray, that we will then also encourage the mayor
Andrew
to pass those on to the
Dale
land
does
bank. I don't believe, and Mr. Freeman can correct
periodically.
me if I'm wrong, I don't think that we could word it in a way that would dictate the mayor's actions. Does that make sense? And that might not be what you're getting at, so I don't.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that if that is a redundant statement, that it conforms with the first.
I think it does. And the way I read it, I think it does, but that's just me. I don't know if there's any other comment on that.
Council?
So with respect to future awards of pilot funds from future projects, I would agree. You could put in here that you would agree or that you will or have or shall encourage the mayor. But again, I mean, I agree. You can't do anything now about what may or may not happen in the future.
I think Mr. Dale's point, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is he just wants to make sure that the first part of this agreement in which it says we have encouraged the mayor to give that money to the land bank, and he has, I think he just wants to make sure that that is congruent with when it says it again in this second part, which I believe it is, but I think that's what we need clarification on.
Yeah,
Is that
well, because
correct?
we have two pilot payments we're talking about.
Sure.
For possibly future. And just something to state that as the one, you can state this so much better than I can, as the one noted pilot agreement has been agreed to by the mayor and the MRC, so does the the MRC encourages the mayor on ensuing pilot agreements, blah, blah, blah. I don't know how it can be written, but
I think I understand what you're saying. I think you could amend it to say something along the lines of the Muncie Redevelopment Commission has encouraged the mayor and agrees to continue to encourage the mayor to allocate pilot funds from existing
There you
affordable.
go.
I think that's fair.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's great.
So if there's no further discussion, I will make a motion that we pass this with that amendment as Mr. Freeman has worded it. Do I have a second on that?
Second, and
Go ahead.
question. I didn't see all of the a summary of all of the terms in the last meeting memorandum. Can you just summarize the terms again?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Howe can probably do it better than I can off the top of his head. But essentially what we've done is we've increased the amount that we're giving them over a 3-year period. Essentially, and thank you. Yeah, I'll probably reference this in a minute. So we met with Mr. Howard and the mayor and Jeff and myself. We all met and we asked Mr. Howard what he preferred to get from the Redevelopment Commission. What was more beneficial to their organization? Was it going to be money or land, or how was that going to work? And he said funding was really crucial right now. And so a funding agreement came about in which we were able to give them money from the pilot program and then continue having this agreement with them for 3 years that gives them just a little bit more money than what they've gotten in the past. Not even a little, it's actually significant. It's double. Yeah.
More than,
so I shouldn't say
yes,
little,
double.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So that's essentially the gist of it. Jeff, you can probably give better.
No, I
details
think
than that.
like I say, we're looking at and talking about, and we won't control when these happen, but we're looking at another project. I've had conversations with a couple different developers that I'm hopeful would, create another pilot for us, which we would.
And look at the poor Cooper.
The mayor and I have talked about it and agree in principle that it makes sense to do this because there are restrictions on how those monies get used. Those monies get used. Those are things that the land bank does. And rather than our controller's office or me or whoever, we'll allocate those funds to the land bank. We've met our obligation under the code. It falls in what they do. And then, like I say, if we get this other project, there'll be a management fee. It was around that 80,000-ish number that would pass on. But so our money has doubled. We were doing 50,000 over 3 years. So, and then, like I say, you get the $30,000 pilot that's in place today that does increase. And over the course of the 15 years, it goes to 500 or 600, whatever the number is. Mm-hmm. And then, like I say, then the management fee is a 2-year, but it does push up funding quite a bit.
And I think the other point I just want to point out also,
they don't want to do that.
This agreement does not. It's not the MRC saying we don't want to give property to the land bank or anything along those lines. They can come to us and ask us for properties, of course.
Make sure, that it checks out. No, I mean, I think this is great. It reflects what we've talked about. I think some of the I just read it real quickly, but the last couple points.
I just read it
about
real quickly.
Communication, and that's something that we've talked about. I think that's something that we need to work on together. Hopefully, like figure out how we can do a better job of aligning our work with the cities. I feel like I've made some proposals of how we can do that, and I'd love to follow up on those. But no, I appreciate it. This keeps us moving forward, and especially if this whole Ready project goes through, that'll be a boon for the land bank as well. I don't know if there's any other questions, but
thank you.
With the stipulations outlined for what the funds can be used for, is that, I don't know if you've had a chance to review, is that something that falls in line with the work you're currently doing, or is this some sort of new program that the land bank would use these funds for?
that would probably be something that I would need to consult with probably the exec committee to make sure that this doesn't require us to do something different. I just assume that it kind of can be funneled into the same activities, but probably should check that out.
I think it does. I mean, from my time as a member of the board at the land bank, and just from my understanding of your organization as an outside person, I think it does. Or else I don't think there'd be much of a point in us having an agreement, right?
Okay.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
And that's my assumption too.
Yeah, I was just curious, like, I mean, I think the land bank's vital to, it's one of the key issues plaguing Muncie, is what to do with our existing neighborhoods that have infrastructure and neighbors and, but is struggling. I just didn't know if this was like directly supporting the work you're already doing in that, or if it was some sort of new program like in Congress with that work. So I think it's beneficial either way. I just wasn't sure.
Come on.
yeah, and I want to thank Nate. I mean, Nate really came to the table. He's been very persistent.
Pass it along, and I think that hinders us in these discussions.
Sure. Okay.
Because I was looking at possibly a more favorable response to the resolution for the spending policy. So we do need to decide.
Listen to this.
It's hard to be a leader, and I really appreciate his leadership and his communication, and the mayor was open ears, which I appreciate. Jeff was helpful, so yeah, it's a team effort. It's really great. So okay, next item is to revisit 2801 South Cowan Road. Mr. Howe, do you want us to take action on this today, or do you want it to just continue to be a discussion piece? Meeting. I think I'd almost prefer it to be a discussion piece, unless you're ready.
That's
for
up
us
to you guys.
move. Okay.
It's up to you guys.
You just go ahead and start, and we'll see where things go.
But I guess I want to, I'm going to ask you to add something to the agenda because I was looking at possibly a more favorable response to the resolution for the spending policy. So we do need to decide whether we can engage those folks to update that feasibility study.
Okay.
Feasibility study that was done a few years ago showed a significant shortage in rooms available.
Yeah.
We have to have something that we can put in front. I don't think those results are any different.
Sure.
And we need to have this updated, or we can't pass it along. And I think that hinders us in these discussions.
Sure. Okay. I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda.
Second.
Oh, okay, great. And I'm sorry, in that motion, I will put it right before the land bank update. So after this discussion on Cowan Road, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's,
Okay. So Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Dale.
Yep.
Mr. Miller, yes. Miss Wagley.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, go ahead.
So I just briefly from me, and then Mr. Cooper is here as well. But when we talked last month about this, a couple things came up about which, by the way, were things that and he'll be able to tell you the same thing I'd suggested before was seeking a variance, what other options were, and then this discussion about the county's participation.
God.
We have, and you should have, I sent you, I believe, a letter from the city engineer that I don't think there's
Chris
any reason
Music,
to
is
believe
that
there's a variance
alcohol?
coming. He
Pass me some.
is against it. He is not going to recommend it. In fact, I think, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but my sense is in reading and then a very brief conversation, he's going to recommend not doing a variance.
So they're not going to do a
the,
variance for this guy. They're not going to do a variance for this guy, which is bullshit. Okay, so now something has to happen. You guys told this guy to go get a variance. They're not going to give him a variance. So now listen to what happens.
And coincidentally, this hit the paper yesterday. So right on last month's discussions, we have allocated money to the Southway Plaza. And part of that, and that's part of that bond. It was infrastructure, and it was, part of it was, I think, with the understanding that it would create, I guess, more appeal to that corridor into downtown. We've talked ad nauseum. Probably no reason to get into a lot of detail about this now. It's all rear view mirror stuff, but that project has not happened. And I think in my discussion with the mayor, how can we, in response to Mr. Cooper's discussion, can we reallocate some of that to not only make this corridor into downtown, because that's the reason it's a corridor, is the reason some of these stipulations exist. And then the other thing is, are we preserving, and I think the city engineer bore this out in his letter, we're preserving the infrastructure that's out there. These big trucks pulling gravel off that parking lot. And I know I was out there, I went out for the groundbreaking at CanPack. Believed it was going to happen, so I went out for the groundbreaking. And but they pitched and sealed the road out there, some part of the road out there. I remember thinking, Cool Hand Luke. What do we got? Pitch and seal out here, and it's just a mess. So I think it's in the same light. The Coopers have put in about $1.2 million in this project. Much of it is equity. My conversation with the county and representative and one of their board members is they would consider participating, but it is in the city. It's a city project. So, I think I gave you the plan of the property, and
I don't know. If
I'm not.
I know it was in the
Yeah,
email.
it was in the email.
In there.
I'm not an engineer, so I don't know. I can't explain to you the plan, but that's the property. So we just need to figure out whether, we're willing to help finish this project off, maybe put some of that money that has been sitting to positive use on a corridor in the downtown, or not. But Mr. Cooper's here. I think he'd be happy to speak and answer questions. He can answer more specific questions about the property itself.
Oh, good. I have several questions, which Jeff, if you can answer, that'd be great, or can wait till Mr. Cooper. What is the amount that was allocated toward the Southway Plaza that is currently available now?
322,000
Okay.
is, available now is, I'm not sure what that means, but that's where it's allocated today.
But that's not been spent, and so
Has not been spent.
Okay,
None of it has been spent. We as that project delayed for a variety of reasons, and some of it industry, some of it those things that are happening in their industry. We've decided, and we've taken the same approach with other folks. We don't put our money in first. They invest first before we put our money in.
You mentioned these requirements being a part of
When
alluding
if
to
they
the
put their
corridor
money in
development.
first.
Yeah, right. Start. When did that happen? Starting when? Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did say. Yeah, he did say that.
Standards. My understanding of this ordinance, the surface of the lot was more related to the industry and not essentially tracking gravel out onto the road. Do you know which ordinance?
Well, the ordinance may have to do with the industry, but the outcome, if it's not paved, it is that we'll drag stuff out on the road, and that's why we look at it. Is that a decent repurpose of some of that money to keep that road that has a lot of ever increasing traffic on it, with CanPack and in Progress Rail and Magna and even the Ivy Tech, so that's why we're looking at that as maybe a source of funding to do that.
Do you know when the ordinance was adopted? Like, this isn't a new ordinance, right?
No.
And then, just for context, I didn't see it in the memorandum. Is this like is there already gravel there now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's from an expansion or from the existing operations?
It's not an expansion. The operation's expanding, but it's expanding. And you jump up and correct me, but it's be relocating to that place. So they built a new building. How many square foot? 11,200. Yeah, so 11,200 square foot building. There's also a house that had been used as and I think probably renovated, but used as a car lot that they also own that will be used in part of this business as well. But it's a new business on that land, and the gravel's there. I'm guessing primarily for the construction and those kind of things.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, it always sounds like that. I don't
Just to
know.
clarify, it was completely undeveloped before. It was just farm ground at that point. There was a car lot that was there, as you mentioned. That was the people before it was a house at some point in time, and it was known as Garrett Auto Sales. I have no relation to them or anything like that, but we purchased that in the 7 acres behind there, built in it's an 80 by 140 facility with our office area inside of there. And in the future plans on our drawing, there's also an area, a 40 by 40 area for future plant sales and bulk materials that will be going in and out of there on a daily basis. So we hope to be able to offer, all different types of stone, mulch, plants, and stuff like that. So as he's saying, there's going to be trucks, semis, and stuff going in and out of there on a daily basis, refilling those bins and bringing plants and everything like that on a daily basis, as well as our own semis and dump trucks and landscape crews going in and out on a daily basis.
How many years have you operated in overall?
This is our 9th year.
Okay.
So we're working on year 10 right now.
And how many years, or how long have you moved to the new
Yeah,
location?
So we just moved in there a month and a half ago.
Okay. Is this like, how were you made aware of the issue with the gravel? Was it an enforcement action? Was it?
Yeah. So pretty much on our paperwork, we received something that said we had to have, like you said, pitch and seal, concrete or asphalt because of where we're at. Not only are we in the city limits, but we're also in the corridor, which, has also required a ton of requirements throughout the process of doing this building. So, like I said, pretty much where we're at, we've exhausted all of our requests for getting funding. And the county is not really willing to move until you guys have made an action because we are in city limits.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
It's an access to capital. It sounds like is your issue,
Mm.
right? Okay. But you can service debt.
What's that?
But you can service debt
Mm.
if somebody has this not been brought to the Muncie Industrial Revolving Loan Fund? Because this is a prime and centered request for the loan fund. In fact, it's far more applicable than this body is. And given the track record of what they've been funding lately, this would be a no-brainer for them. Their spending limits are $450,000, nothing less than $10,000 of a request. Their terms can be quite favorable. They only supplant a bank if a bank has already been accessed and you had a turn down letter. Because you've spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're accessed. I understand what it's like to be tied at the moment. So, and it won't always be that way.
Sure.
But the loan fund is a perfect place to go and make application. And the way they swiftly work at times, it could be probably handled fairly quickly, I would think.
That is a fair point. And I was going to just ask if you had approached them or not. I haven't kept up on what they're working on currently, so I don't know the extent of that.
I guess our biggest thing is we're supposed to have this completed by November.
Okay.
And we physically just don't have the means at this point in time to spend $200,000 without pretty much selling equipment or changing something up in our business to try and just make it happen for the simple fact of trying to meet code.
Yeah. I have seen the loan fund be engaged in one single meeting for a significant amount of money to be granted. Now, what's interesting is by statute or by our own guidelines, this body, that the loan fund answers technically to this body. It's not to say that the question would come back to us. It starts and stops with them. But I think it's in your interest to get on their docket immediately. And I've seen them make a spot on decision there.
I will say, and again, Mr. Dale's point, that someone's going to bring up, I know that with the revolving loan fund, and this would probably be a better question for, I believe, Deputy Mayor Ivy has a lot of managerial oversight of that board. So Deputy Mayor Ivy might be your best bet to discuss this with. But I know in the past there have been several requirements to gain access to the funding from the revolving loan fund, including, you're going to create this many jobs, or you're going to create this much XYZ, whatever those results may be. And I know that could be possibly more challenging. I don't know, because I don't know your business that well, but that could be more challenging than going through us. However, I do agree with Mr. Dale that is an appropriate course of action. And that's not to say that it's bad that you approached us or inappropriate at all, because it's not. But
I just hate that we're kicking this kid
where
and
the statutory purpose of a redevelopment commission really is to address blight and abandonment. However, the standard
Why didn't they
that a lot
tell
of
him
cities,
about
especially
this a
mid-sized
month
cities like
ago?
Muncie, operate
Yeah,
under,
right.
is they want to use the
Instead of
redevelopment
just
commission
telling him
as
to
their
get a
economic
variance?
development commission as well. And so
Yeah,
that presents
that would
challenges,
be a good
obviously,
question.
and probably why you approached us, which makes perfect sense. So, yeah, from there, that's kind of my thought. I don't know, Jeff, if you have a response to that idea. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I think my biggest concern is we'd just like to get the project up and running.
Get done.
I mean, it's, I think we'd like to get it done. And like I say, we saw that, that as I'm not sure who sent you to me, but is that the mayor? Was that? But like I say, we had the discussion about the
Yes,
other monies
Stumblefoot.
and trying to repurpose it with the same kind of thing in mind. South side investment corridor, and whether it's, building infrastructure, preserving infrastructure. So
Sure.
But
And I will say too, I know we're kind of at an awkward stalemate because it's the county looking at us and we're looking at the county, right? And I don't know how confident or not confident I am that they would want to take action with us. I guess my preference would be for us to have a formal agreement with the county that they will act on this with us. And we don't have that yet, obviously. So I would say for time's sake and just organization's sake, I don't want to make you go to another government meeting because I know you're probably tired of this, but I would follow Mr. Dale's instruction, get on the docket for the revolving loan fund immediately. And then if that doesn't work out, then I think it's become DEFCON 5. I need to go to the MRC for funding. That's kind of my
to be
thought.
clear, I would not expect that you will get an agreement with the county until we take action, because it is a city project.
Yes,
And you know, I think the best we can do is encourage them to do it. And I've had a few conversations, and there's some lean forward there. But we need to make sure that if at some point we decide we want to entertain this again and have a conversation, I don't think we can use those as contingencies because.
Yeah, I know you're tired of going to a government meeting, but
Is there
you're
any
going
way
to
of
another
us
government
having
meeting.
any more type of, like, if that doesn't work out, of us having a plan with them to maybe see what you guys are willing to do to work together? Because that's kind of where everybody, the people I've talked to over at the county, that's what they're more or less waiting to see what you guys are willing to do. I really feel as if they are interested in helping, but since we are located in city limits, they're simply saying, we're willing to help, but we need to see what kind of move they're going to make first.
Yeah, and that's a fair characterization of the conversations I've had. It's a project that doesn't come with a whole lot of conflict.
yeah.
So, the city, county, economic development, redevelopment, I didn't know this until fairly recently, but apparently there's been friction points.
Sure.
And this shouldn't really have friction points.
I agree.
But it is a city project. So if they were to agree to help, it would be great. But they are extending into the city to.
Then I think in that light, my suggestion would almost be if it's Mr. Cooper's preference to go through us, if that, and I believe that's strongly your preference, that's okay. I'm not want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
I'm just
either- I
talking.
mean-
If the preference is to go through us, and I think the preference of the administration is for them to go through us at this point, in this early discussion, I think my suggestion would be for us to have you, Mr. Howe, as our director, go to the county, say, this is what we could potentially put in. What are you guys willing to do along with that? If an agreement can be made soon as possible in that discussion, that's what we need. We need someone to go from us to them, have the discussion, and then we can make a decision on something. Because the truth of the matter is, I mean, this is an actionable item today technically, but we don't have anything written out. We don't have any real sense of what's actionable or not. So that would be my suggestion for you as director. If we can empower you to do that, then, and let's go from there so we can get this done. Go ahead.
But we've stated that we can service some form of debt, and understanding what that is, we've set up through the government for the people a procedure and places to go. The loan fund is the place to go. So if we exhaust that first, understand what you can service in debt, come to an agreement there. If not, then we can entertain it coming here. But I would strongly advise that we don't create any novel roads to travel here, that we utilize trusted and proven paths of how we help individuals to grow the community.
And I should be clear. I'm not saying don't go to the revolving loan fund. I mean, I would encourage actually both to happen at the same time. I mean, like currently, just to see whatever option.
Can I make a motion?
If you would like to, yeah. I know. Well, unless there's more discussion. Does anybody else? No.
I think the revolving loan fund is a good idea. Not saying that this board wouldn't do something too. And I'm checking with the director right now to see if they can meet with you when this meeting's over.
That's great.
Oh, God.
I don't know if the motion's even necessary, but I
don't know if it is.
But I would strongly suggest, and it sounds like we're all saying the same thing, please go there first.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion. I don't necessarily know that we need an actionable item for that, but Mr. Bishop, do you have anything else? You look like you're thinking.
Yeah, Jeff, which entity of the county are we referring to?
Dan's going to be mad. The administration wants them to act on this.
Yeah, their redevelopment.
Is their jurisdiction is
Yeah.
county-wide, right? Not just unincorporated areas?
Correct.
So I don't know that I would say it's not also could it be a project of theirs? Just, I mean, this city is a part of the county.
I'm just communicating what's been communicated to me. It's a city project. They
Yeah.
likely be willing to help.
I agree with you. I think that's kind of how the county's visioning it as well. That's what you just
Okay.
said.
And and just Jeff or Shireen, can one of you introduce Mr. Cooper to the deputy mayor or whoever's available after this meeting?
Well,
And I think they are anxious to help you. We just want to make sure that all the
You
steps
sure
have
don't
been
seem
taken
like it.
before we do
Nobody
that.
seems
Just like with the
anxious to
variance.
help these people.
Once the engineer has stated that this, why this has to be done. Now, you said that you have to have this done by November.
That was, from the original planning, that was the timeframe I was supposed to have it.
And who
complete.
gave that timeline? The planning commission?
Yeah,
or?
the planning commission.
Okay.
So,
I guess my final thought would be, I'm not opposed to this. I would like to see these other options explored and maybe a little more like robust proposal, or like, something to actually take action on, whether it's next month or during a special meeting if needed to. I would just say, from being a part of the city for several years, like I don't see the city typically get involved in helping conform to standards, whether it's building code or ordinances that have been around for a while. There's through the Unsafe Building Hearing Authority or the Board of Zoning Appeals. Like, these are just what's on the book, and they have been for years. And that's part of the requirement to build our community. I'm not opposed to it, but I do think there are more blighted, abandoned areas of our community that also don't conform to these standards, and including, properties in McKinley, which is we're already investing in. So that's kind of where I'm leaning for it.
Yeah. I don't want to belabor the discussion any longer than it needs to be, but Mr. Cooper, I just want to encourage you. We're a resource to you. All four, and Steve's not here, but all five of us, we are a resource. So Mr. Bishop's been a planner. Mr. Dale's ran a business. Ms. Wagley works for the city. I'm just a guy, but I'm here. So we want to be a resource to you is my point. So please reach out if there's something that we can do to help as well. But I know Jeff's going to take the lead and run with it too. So
Yeah, don't get discouraged.
just
You've
a
been here
guy.
twice already,
we'll
but
get
I
you
think
figured out one way or another.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Excited
thank
to
you.
see your business grow.
Mr. Howe, we do have the feasibility study item next. If you'd like to discuss that.
We
as
want
well.
to see your building grow.
You kind of have, but
Discussion's been had. So, I mean, I think just, is there, at a date and time, can that be at least be shared a little bit with others if it helps? Okay. Okay. That'd be great.
Collaboration with the fact we're looking at the east side of
Right.
Muncie, in that area, and potentially what is needed in Muncie. And it's not just location, it's the quality of
Mhm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There's a lot of factors
Mhm.
in the study.
Right.
But it's 2 years old, maybe.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
dated.
I think what you're pointing out, Jeff, is there needs to be enough, and that makes a lot of sense.
Understand.
Yep.
There's a deficiency. And then
So this is great. Thank you.
all right, we'll take action on this. Mr. Bishop,
Yes.
Mr. Dale,
Yep.
Mr. Miller, yes, Ms. Wagley.
Yes.
Great, passes 4-0. We'll go ahead and move on with our Muncie Land Bank update from Mr. Howard. Come on back.
He just
State
gives
conference in Louisville on the
the
27th.
update. You can go back
We
through
would
and listen
love
to
to do
that.
that. It's important now.
Okay, here's
You can take from that.
listen to
I don't
this.
know if anybody signed up on the list. You'll have 2 minutes each to speak.
I apologize, I didn't sign up,
That's
but
okay.
I'm Ed Knatzer, and I was here for the 2000 Comprehensive Land Use Plan. I was part of that. And Jim, I don't know if you were involved then or not, but I think there's a lot of pride that we can take from that. It's
Jeff.
a learning experience based on what needs to happen maybe, or what could happen in the future. The quiet zone was initiated during that time. Urban sprawl was starting to be eliminated. Preserving ag land, that's an important thing that was important then, is important now. The key thoroughfares, we worked on those for the last 24 years. So a lot of improvements there. Economic development, you can see what's happened, preserving and protecting natural environment. So there's a lot of things that happened, and the plan's still available. You can go online, you can see the plan from 2000. It's even on a CD, if anybody knows what a CD is.
What's that? No, I'm just kidding.
And anyway, the plan's there, but there's also a plan from 2020 so maybe they can go back and review those and make maybe a plan for the future, a comprehensive regional plan. One thing I'd like to see added is the opportunity to create a new housing environment for tiny homes. We talk about it. We talked about it for years, and it's always been an objection from the Plan Commission to look at anything other than what the minimum standards are. So in creating this new plan, maybe the opportunity would exist for giving some consideration to tiny homes. So I guess that's all I have. But anyway, thank you much.
Thanks.
Very good.
Was that everyone on the sign up list? There wasn't anybody? Okay.
Yeah.
We will move on to commissioner comments. If anybody has anything from today's meeting?
The only thing I have is, when I was looking at the revolving loan fund, I went through their guidelines that are on the website and their application process. And the Redevelopment Commission is stamped, not all over these documents, but enough that states that, that the loan fund nests, in a sense, under the Redevelopment Commission. And I'm wondering if there's some archaic language in the guidelines now. It was updated June 17th, 2019, and it's got Richard Ivy's name on it, but I don't think that can be right because he wasn't, he was elsewhere. But anyway, yeah, but the date might have been changed. But I would love to get an update on what does this mean? Like statutorily, how does that work? Why does the loan fund technically answer to our director? And I'm sure it's laudable reasons. But I mean, there's some specific stuff in here that says like the City of Muncie Redevelopment Commission will assist loan applicants and see to the everyday operation of the loan fund program. But I don't know that that may be being done, but it'd be really cool just to get a briefing on, because I don't, you're in here everywhere. So anyway, and 30 years ago I was on the board and knew all this, but I'd forgotten it. So maybe on the agenda next month, we can have a little tutorial on this. Be great.
Any other thoughts today from commissioners?
God, they hate
Fine by
Andrew.
and just appreciate everyone's work on all these items.
They hate Andrew.
Good meeting this month. Good meeting. Okay, if no one objects, we will stand adjourned, and our next meeting is September 19th, 2024. Thanks so much.
Oh God. Okay, that's that, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. Those people are idiots. It's just really, really ridiculous. They are ridiculous. It's horrible. It's sad. Before we leave here, I do want to say this. I've been made aware of a couple of other things relating to the breach. I am unable to release what I have heard today about this. I did submit an email, and I want to get this out on the record on the show. I did submit an email to Ridenauer and to the city today. I sent this to, this was sent to Dan. It was sent to the mayor, the deputy mayor, the communications director, the HR director, the city council, and the city council attorney. And the email says, Mayor Ridenauer and everyone, question number 1, does the city of Muncie have a statement about the security breach that occurred due to HR Director Goddard sending nearly 690 W-2s to a scammer? Question number 2, in the letter that Mayor Ridenauer sent to the people affected by this, he stated the city became aware of this on July 12th and that an investigation was promptly started, and then the investigation was over by July 15th. That's 3 days. Is the city claiming that that was long enough to have a full grasp on what occurred here? What are the results of the investigation? What will arrests be made? Question number 3. Has HR Director Goddard offered her resignation? Has Mayor Ridenauer asked for her resignation? Will she be removed as HR Director? Question number 4. It appears as if this event may have sparked the sanitary district to decide to end the MOU as it relates to HR services with the city, as they are now looking to hire their own HR director. Does the city have a statement reference how this will be a negative impact on Muncie citizens? Question number 5. This act, it seems, would have required HR Director Goddard to get some assistance from someone within the controller's office. And I can't really go into that much more, but just suffice it to say, this is not only on HR Director Goddard. There's now more in the story that makes me believe that there was someone else that was involved with this. So now that means there's possibly 2 city employees that heard this stupid ass thing and did not do anything to check and make sure that it was above board. Crazy. Does the city know who that second person is? And will any disciplinary actions be taken out on that person? Question number 6. Several former employees and elected officials, listen to this, several former employees and former elected officials, people that would have had a 2023 W-2 on file, have stated they did not receive word of this breach, period, from the city. Why is that the case? And does the city have planned on notifying these people that their information was caught up in this security breach? Question number 7. Mayor Ridenauer rather prematurely stated in his letter that the city has no evidence of attempted or actual misuse of your information as a result of this incident. I'm wondering how the mayor can so confidently say that after only 3 days. Lastly, under the Indiana Access to Public Record Act, I am requesting an opportunity to inspect and obtain copies of the following public records relating to this, following the public records relating to the following. The original email that HR Director Goddard received from the scammer account. I want a copy of it. I want to see the email that was sent to her. I want to see what it said. I want to see the email address. I need to see this thing. The email that was requesting her to send the W-2s. I'm not sure what date it was. The best I can do is say it was sometime after May 6th and before January 12th of this year, 2024. Next, any internal emails, notes, or letters that HR Director Goddard had sent to verify the initial request was something that she should comply with from anybody within City Hall. Any communication she had about this with anyone at City Hall. Next, HR Director Goddard's response back to the scammer. Obviously, you cannot provide me with the W-2s, and I'm not asking you for that. However, I am asking you for any other corresponding information that she would have typed in the body of the email. That is what I am requesting. The W-2 attachments can easily be not sent or discarded, censored, whatever. That could easily be. I know they're not going to send me the W-2s. And then the finished and finalized police report and all emails, letters, memos to, from, Ridenauer, Ivy, Goddard, Wright, Green, Wagley, back and forth after July 12th about this security breach. All communications to the city employees and others that might have been affected by this. And then lastly, a total of the number of people that was truly affected by this security breach. The requested information is in the public's best interest and will contribute significantly to the public's understanding of the city government in Muncie, the security breach, and how the city responds to situations like this. This will help foster better communication, blah, 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 blah. So I sent that out today, and I am, of course, waiting for a response from someone about that. It'll be interesting. I have been being blown up by people on Facebook, by people on Twitter, and by people calling me about this. This is a big, big deal. Really briefly, before we leave. I'll show this tomorrow. I just want to say there are some major scams going on right now. The LA, I don't know if it was the LA Times, the LA Times broke a story a couple of days ago about some kind of hacking group stealing a bunch of social security numbers. They've used a very different form of phishing to do this. Is this part of that? It very well could be. Maybe, I don't know. But we will explore all of that coming up. We won't get into it anymore tonight. But then also, one of the people that was involved with this also recently had been sent a letter from their financial institution about a breach. And I want to compare and contrast the two letters that Ridenauer sent versus what the financial institution sent. They're very similar, but there are some major differences. So we're going to take a look at all of that. So that'll be coming up. You guys, thank you very much. Just in ending, I want to tell you, if you did not get a chance to watch the Rainwater Town Hall tonight at 7, please watch that. Watch that over the weekend. Tonight's Thursday, so we will not be here tomorrow, and we will not be here Saturday. We will be back Sunday, but please watch that Rainwater Town Hall, and please do me a favor. Maybe even if you don't want to watch it, share it. Help spread the word. We need to help Rainwater out. Even if you don't want to vote for him, spread the message so other people can at least hear from these people. It is not right or fair that he should be heard any less simply because because Braun can afford to buy an election. That's bullshit, and we need to help get the word out. Even if you're not interested in supporting him, at least allow other people to hear his message. All right, you guys Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful Friday. Have a great Friday. Good last day of the work week. If you're off on the weekend, you guys have a beautiful weekend. Enjoy the weekend. I think it's going to be a nice weather this weekend here in East Central Indiana. You guys take care of yourselves. We will be back at 9 p.m. sharp Sunday, and we can't wait to do it all again then. All right. You guys have a good night. God bless each and every one of you, and we will see you Sunday. Good night. You know.